Hello YouTube, this is Price667, and we are back after a little bit of hiatus for a new league and a new season. So this is now NCP. I have gone from SBU to APA, now to NCP. After my championship season with SBU, I decided to go into APA and stink it up and miss playoffs. So now here we can like even it out, go into playoffs at NCP. I'm not going to say win it all because I don't want to put too high of hopes first thing, but I do think that maybe with this team I can do something with it. So we shall see. But one, I don't want to get my hopes up too high and just have them crash down on me. I think what draft is about is not winning; it's more about having fun. So that's what I'm here for. But anyways, as you can see from where we're at right now, this is my draft analysis for NCP. I was accepted into NCP pretty much because a big reason is it's ran by the same people who ran APA and the same people who ran SBU. So it's just the same people again type of thing. So I'm here for it. Honestly, they just run Wi-Fi at this point, I guess. But I'm here for it nonetheless. So a little bit of background. So I was pick number 3 in this draft. So that was actually very exciting because I wanted a top 3 pick because the fact that they allowed Landorus Incarnate in this draft. So that meant that I was either going to get Landorus Incarnate or Urshifu Single Strike or Dragapult based on what other people wanted. They also allowed Zamazenta, but honestly, I really didn't want that mon anyways because I wanted a mon that can run an item type of thing. So here we are. And so I was pick 3. I was like, okay, I would rather have Urshifu. I would take Dragapult over Urshifu because I have never ran Dragapult before. Because every single Sword and Shield draft I've ever done, I've never gotten the top pick where I could get Dragapult. So I've always just been stuck with either just a lower tier good pick or Urshifu. I don't know about stuck with Urshifu, but yeah, going into it, first pick was Urshifu Single Strike. Now, it was either this or Zamazenta. Now, I just used Urshifu Single Strike in SBU, which was the Ubers League, so it was not like a new thing, but I would much rather have this mon over Zamazenta or anything else that was left since both Landorus and Dragapult were taking picks 1 and 2. So I was like, alright, I'll just snag Urshifu Single Strike, and we'll figure it out as we go along. Once again, I love this mon. It just clicks the win button, and that's all it has to do. I don't have to think, and honestly, I do not like thinking. So just a perfect compliment to me and my playstyle. So I'm very happy to get it. Now for pick number 2. Going into it, I had a lot of people tell me that this mon actually pairs very well with Urshifu. Heck if I know, I've never really used this mon with Urshifu before. I've never really seen it with Urshifu before. I understand the pairing as like an offensive pairing more than a defensive one. So with pick 2, I just decided to grab Gengar. I could have probably waited for Gengar to like pick 3. But I was like, you know what? There's nothing else on the board that I really feel like I want. So I was like, I'll just get Gengar now, and then later on we'll see like if there's anything else I want, because like just Gengar was like, okay, I don't really care for any of the mons that are left over, but I was told that Gengar is really good with their Urshifu, so might as well just snag Gengar. So I snagged Gengar round 2, and honestly, as was discussed before, Gengar and Urshifu are great offensively pairing, as Urshifu hates fairy types. So fairy type switches into Urshifu. Urshifu U-turns out, goes into Gengar, and boom, now the fairy type is pressured and forced to switch out again, leaving Gengar to either A, click a free Shadow Ball, free Sludge Wave, B, I can substitute up, or I get free Nasty Plot. However it works out, just great positioning for Gengar. Gengar really pressures the fairy types that Urshifu checks, and in turn, Urshifu pretty much pressures everything else on the opposing team that Gengar doesn't really hit too hard. So honestly, just great pairing overall. Like, you know, the psychic types or whatever that will offensively check Gengar, not defensively, but offensively check Gengar. Or Shifu literally just destroys them. So overall, just a great offensive pairing. Defensively, it does leave a lot to wish for, as though Ghost is immune to fighting types, or Shifu would probably switch out versus fighting type just so it doesn't get hit by like a hard close combat. A lot of fighting types do get knockoff, and Gengar does not appreciate a knockoff since it's so frail defensively. So it's gonna be a little bit tough defensively handling Mon. So that was my thought process going into my next few picks. That maybe I want a little bit more defensive backbone for these two, because right now I just have offense. I don't really have defense, so it's like I would have to out offense my opponent thus far. So round 3, I chose Random Heat. Now Random Heat and Sword and Shield is a huge threat. It got Nasty Plot, and it also got Boots, which honestly Boots is probably the biggest thing for Random Heat, as it is now able to reliably switch in on rocks and click Defog. The only thing it's really afraid of now is knockoff for its boots. So it's still afraid of that, of course, but I just think it is on par with Rotom Wash now as a Rotom user, as a Rotom overall. Rotom Wash used to be a lot better than Rotom Heat. Heck, I would have had Rotom Bow over Rotom Heat in previous generations just because of rocks being a huge issue for Heat. But now, with Boots, Rotom Heat is so much better now. Fire typing is amazing. Fire Electric is just, I believe, amazing overall. It's just, what I was afraid of is just water, rocks, and that's about it. And maybe like Mold Breaker, Earthquake, or if it's on the ground for like a gravity or whatever, Earthquakes then. But outside of that, it's just an amazing Mon. It's just can be both bulky and offensive. It's just stabs with Overheat and then Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Discharge, that type of thing. Once again, talk about like Nasty Plot sets will be amazing. Pain Split. Just overall, like a lot of different things I could run. As discussed earlier, I could defog hazards away, like if webs are up, or if like rocks and spikes are up, I could get rid of those as well. So overall, was really happy with this pick. I just felt it worked so well. It adds a Volt Switch as well to get into Gengar or Urshifu. Say they switch in their Water type. Well, not Water type. Well, maybe they do. Say they switch in their Water type, and I Volt Switch out. I can pressure the Water type a little bit with Urshifu or with Gengar, depending on if the Water type is like maybe Primarina or Vaporeon or something like that. Just put a lot of offensive pressure on it all of a sudden. Say they switch in their Rock type, and boom, Urshifu. There we go. So overall, it just meshes very well with the team, I feel, and I'm very excited to use it. I'm a huge Rotom stan. If anything, I would draft Rotom with every single team I've ever built. If people know me, Rotom is probably not. If we just include forms, Rotom's probably my most drafted Mon. And so I'm just excited to use the Heat form now. So coming up with the next pick, my ground resist currently was Rotom Heat, and I wasn't really ecstatic about that because there's still a Mold Breaker out there. There's still people who would like cheese with like gravity, or maybe they want to trick me a heavy ball or whatever, just bring me down to the ground. So I wanted something that can still take on ground types. Oh, as well, not to mention the 1,000 arrows from like a Zygarde 10%, which both of those mons are bad, so I really don't care about that. But that is the thing. So a little bit of weariness for that. So I was like, okay, let me get a good ground check. So I ended up getting Tangrowth. Now, Tangrowth has the most busted ability in Draft League and Regenerator. I don't care what anyone says. Regenerator is by far the most busted ability. Bar none. I don't care. And so I can just switch into ground hit and then switch out and get 33% back. Not caring. It's pretty much going to stay healthy versus ground types for most of the game until I am dumb and I let it take too much damage and die. But what Tangrowth does really well is it can run both offensive and defensive sets. What people think is like, well, Tangela is just the same thing and a lot cheaper, so it's better. Tangela is passive, Tangrowth is not. So what Tangela struggles with is its offensive stats aren't that great. It's going to be setup fodder pretty much for a lot of mons. It's just free switch-ins a lot of times. Tangrowth is not that. Tangrowth still has a really high base attack, base 125, I believe. I will double check that just to be certain, as I do not want to just spread false information here. But Tangrowth it can still hit relatively hard. It, once again, great defenses. Both like its HP stats really high, so it kind of hides its mediocre special effect. Okay, base 100 attack, base 110 special attack. I apologize. It's base 125 defense. Okay, so still has a relative, like, base 110 special attack is higher than, you know, Mew. So it still hits relatively hard. It still gets like Leaf Storm, Giga Drain, Power Whip, Earthquake, Knockoff, all those different things. I can run Sleep Powder, I can run Leech Seed sets, that sort of thing as well. It's just, it gets an array of different things it can do. It works well as like a defensive backbone for this team, as like even then, like ground types aren't exactly, Edgequake is specifically isn't exactly something I like. So having Tangrowth there to tank Edgequake overall from the ground types and just be an overall nuisance for the other team, as well as like can be like offensively threatening, so it's not just set up fire. So that's why I got Tangrowth, and now top 4 looking great. For the 5th pick, I was like, okay, I like my top 4 thus far. Now I want a steel type that can handle fairies, so that my only fairy switch-in isn't A, Rotom Heat, or B, A, Rotom Heat, which is like trying to switch it to other mons as well, so it can be pressured, or B, Gengar, which is not a defensive wall at all. So I was like, okay, so what am I going to get for fairy types as well? And I was like, let me get a good steel type. Let me just grab Bronzong. I say good in parentheses, in quotations, I mean, because Bronzong isn't the best steel type. I am going to be the first to admit that. It's not the best, but it does bring a couple of handy things. It does have the ability Levitate, so ground types aren't as much of a nuisance to this as it would be to other steel types. So I am now not as weak to ground types as I have been in a lot of my previous drafts, as you may have seen. The psychic typing doesn't make me weak to fighting, so that was another concern of mine, as once again my only fighting resist thus far was Gengar, which I don't really count as a resist to anything, because Gengar dies to knockoffs. Gengar doesn't like knockoffs from fighting types, so it isn't weak to fighting types. Of course, it doesn't resist it either, so the psychic typing isn't going to make it resist it, but it's still better as to not just compound my fighting weakness with another weak to fighting. So that was the thing here. It does have some new sets. I can run Rocks, of course, is the easy one. Gyro Ball can still do a lot of damage. Heavy Slam definitely does a lot of damage. It's Earthquake, it's Zen Headbutt, Psychic, that sort of thing. I can run a Trick Room set, and just if I have like other slow mons, which I do later on, that can take advantage of it, I can just run Trick Room and start beating things that way. Especially if I'm like up against a Webs teams per se, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to care about Webs being up. Instead, I would rather have Webs up, so Trick Room could do better. I can do that. I can be Toxic Annoying. I'd be Iron Defense Body Press and Annoying. So like, there's a lot of different sets that Bronzong can run here. So overall, it's just a good steel type that does what it's supposed to in checking the fairies with its really high base defenses. Fairy types aren't going to be able to break it so easily. And anytime I can also throw on Rest, since I am levitating. If people have like Misty Terrain or Electric Terrain, it's not going to matter. So that's kind of all is what I want to use it for. There's other sets as well I can run later on down the road. but it's kind of what I'm here for. Now, for my 6th pick, there was originally a really good mon that I wanted that was still somehow on the board. Now, this may have been just due to people choosing other mons of the same type. So it was right before my pick. I was like, okay, great. The person before my pick has a Slowking. There's no way they're going to pick another water type this early on in the draft, especially one that does the exact same thing as Slowking. So I was like, okay, great. I'm about to snag this one as a 6th rounder, and my team is going to be broken, busted, etc. And long and behold, he's like, you know what? I'm going to take it because I think I need another bulky water type that does the exact same thing as Slowking. So Jesse freaking 504 took Tapu Fini right before my pick. And it was such an annoying decision, as it felt more than anything just to spite me. And I was super angry. I was teed off for pretty much the next 3 rounds because of it. And it's like yes, I shouldn't have expected Tapu Fini to last that long anyways. But still, it did. And nothing to do with me that it lasted that long. Everyone else around that time had a bulky water type or a water type that they were not going to take Tapu Fini. So it was pretty much a guarantee unless someone was dumb enough just to take it when they already had a bulky water type. And long and behold, he did that. So I lost out on the fairy type I really wanted. There wasn't really much left as fairies that I would have preferred, especially since I already had a psychic type. Gardevoir and Lele weren't going to really be helpful for me. So I ended up taking Comfey. And a huge fall of grace from grace that Tapu Fini into Comfey is so disappointing. Now, Comfey does have the ability to have priority Draining Kiss, which is nice, as in, like, Dragon Dancing Dragon types aren't that much of a threat to me because of it. So it does have that niche going for it, but it's just so much weaker than Fini, and it makes me so sad. But either way, I still took it, and we're still going to rock with it. Comfey still has its niche, and I still think with how this team is, it can do very well. Looking at it, my team does not like getting toxic or burned or whatever else. So having a mon that knows Hubo or Aromatherapy is very nice. Having more U-turn spam that goes along with the Volt Switch Repeat and U-turn Urshifu single strike to get into my powerful attackers like Urshifu or Gengar is great as well. So it's really just pivoting, the Draft League motto of pivoting here. So overall, just it's what it's here for. Pivots, healing me up with Aromatherapy, preventing Dragon Sweeps with Draining Kiss, Giga Drain, that sort of thing. And overall, it's like, it could be a very nuisance mod. If you do not prep for it correctly, it could just sit there and just slowly kill your whole team. Stored power sets are nothing to sneeze at, so like Comfey isn't a terrible mod by any means. It was the best fairy remaining, so I wouldn't say it was a terrible mod by any means, but it's not Tapu Fini, and I don't know if I could ever forgive Jesse for taking it. So here we are, Comfey over Fini. Yay. Alright, so next up, it was like, okay, I lost my bulky water / fairy type, so now I have to get another bulky water. And at this point, I probably could have waited a round or so for my bulky water, but I was like, you know what, there's still a couple other people who don't have their waters yet. And this mon's still remaining at round 7, so unlike Fini, I'm not going to try to wait and see if it can last another couple rounds. So I ended up getting Swampert. I'm a huge Swampert fan. It's probably one of, if not my favorite mon. Mudkip's my favorite mon, so it's part of that line. So I'm so happy to draft it. I love drafting Swampert, especially lately, now that it has Flip Turn. It's become so much better just with that pivoting option. Still one of the top tier rockers, still an amazing bulky water type. And it's also, like, it's still nothing to sneeze at offensively. Earthquake plus Scald or Waterfall still hits a lot of things super hard. Its only threat is going to be grass types. And you even notice I have a Rotom Heat and a Gengar and a Tangrowth, so grass types aren't really that concerning for me. So overall, it just meshed really well with my team. Its weakness is covered by a lot of my other mons. It can block a Volt Switch, so a water type that blocks Volt Switch is amazing. And I can continue gushing on and on about it. It beats fire types, which is like something that my team still kind of struggle with. I do not, especially with like a lot of the flame bodies fire types around. I do not trust Urshifu to 1v1 these fire types, because if I get burned with Urshifu, it's going to become a lot less of a threat later on. So having Swampert to kind of handle the fire types instead is amazing for me. So overall, Rocks, Flip Turn, Rock Slide, Earthquake, Waterfall, just Scald, just, you know, kind of the thing that Swampert does. So I'm happy to have it. And next up was I had a Tangrowth. I was like, alright, I have one Regenerator Mon. Why not get another Regenerator Mon? Second part was I have no Ghost Check whatsoever. My Ghost Check is Urshifu. And once again, not really excited to have Urshifu as my single Ghost Check, as I want Urshifu to be more of an offensive Mon than I do want it to be a defensive Mon trying to check things. So I was like, you know what? Let's grab Audino. Audino is the most passive Mon I have ever seen. That's a lie. There's a looky. But Audino is still like very passive. I'm a very like anti-drafting passive type of person, but I still drafted it. It still passes really nice wishes, and Knock and Toxic are pretty good as well. There's literally only one set I can even agree with, so I'm not even going to get into details about like how I like drafting on and whatever else. I personally don't, but it does have Regenerator and Switch, which is the most busted thing you can draft is Regen and Switch. So it does have that going for it. It is quite tanky, so I could definitely take on a lot of like special breakers as well. Relatively easily. So it adds to the defensive backbone that I'm already built with Swampert, Bronzong, and Tangrowth. And it's able to pass like amazing wishes to Urshifu or Gengar even. So like it still does what it needs to, and it brings in fighting types, which I guess Config is switching to. Yeah, I'm not really great at drafting fighting types checks yet. So going into pick 9, I was like, okay, I still lose the fighting types. And you know what? I'll draft a dragon, because, you know, drafting dragons because it's fun. Spamming outrage, yeah, that sort of thing. So I was like, I'll still draft a dragon. I got points left, you know. Might as well just take this Mon. I've used it before. I had a lot of success with it, so I'll take it again. Though it's more expensive than Dragonite, and Dragonite is better than this Mon. I don't know why people think that Dragonite is worse. I used to be on the same bandwagon until I drafted Dragonite, but that's another story. But it's Salamence. Now, yes, I do think Salamence was overpriced in comparison to a lot of the other Mons, but it's still a threat. No matter its price tier, it's still a scary threat. Dragon Dance Moxie sets, Intimidate's an amazing ability. Probably I'd say like the second best ability in Draft League, other than Regenerator. So Intimidate just stops a lot of like the physical breakers. It can kind of soft beat physical sweepers, depending on it like being able to live a hit that it wouldn't be able to live from like +1 attackers. So Intimidate, Moxie, two amazing abilities. Once again, Heavy Duty Boots was introduced in this gen, so it could still stay at full health. It still has really good both physical and special attacks, so unlike Dragonite, it can't hit especially hard as well, so its special set is still as threatening. And its physical set is just as threatening as Dragonite's, a little bit. I'd say the same. I won't say even more, I just say about the same as threatening as Dragonite, so. It's faster as well, base 100 speed. And so Dragon Dances are a lot scarier from this mod than it would be from Dragonite. So there's like a couple things that makes it better than Dragonite, but overall I think Dragonite's better. But I still took this round 9, happy with it. I got another like threat to help breakthrough teams to help sweep teams later on in the end game. It's probably one of the best, I think, like overall, just of how it was drafted. Like in round 9, I would say it was like the best value cleaner I could get. So I was happy for it to get to me again. Have another fun like mod to use. I love using Salamence. Even if I just trash talked it a little bit there, I still love using it. One of my favorite mods to use in Draft League, so I'm excited to use Salamence again. And next up, I was like, I need a Spikes user, as I currently would love to have Spikes. Gengar, Urshifu, Single Strike really appreciate Spikes. And originally I wanted Excelgor, more for Excelgor's ability to like guarantee at least one layer of Spikes before going down. But Excelgor was unfortunately sniped a few picks before me, so I was like, okay, what's the next good Spiker? It's like, you know what, this mod works. So I ended up taking Galissopod. Now, Galissopod doesn't just work as a Spiker, it can work as a very offensive threat as well, like Choice Banded especially. First Impression's amazing, it forces prep more than anything else. A lot of the mods that when it originally run Protect are probably going to have to run Protect just to counter Galissopod. As a first impression from like a banded Galissopod, even a Life Orb Galissopod, I don't know why I would run Life Orb, but banded Galissopod does a bunch of damage. Its ability as well is kind of like a U-turn once I get below 50% from an opponent's attack. So, say I can like Aqua Jet and then get hit and then switch out into like another mon without ever worried about getting hit back, so I'm able to attack and safely switch in without even use of an item just due to its ability. So really cool ability and stuff like that. So it's just, it adds more mind games. At this point, I'm just looking for like stuff that can like kind of fill out what I need. So it adds Spikes, which I needed, and it adds more mind games I'm more than happy with. I think a lot of the times, like, what people don't realize in Draft League is that when you're like drafting like the lower tier mons, like in the later rounds, instead of like drafting bad mons that don't force prep, try to draft mons that aren't great but they still force prep. So stuff like you can argue that Spectrier is bad, or Regieleki is bad, or Regidrago is bad. But what those do is they force prep from the other team. So what Regidrago is going to do is going to force fairy types to come. A lot of times, like say, you have a good fairy type, so it's going to come either way, but sometimes run to someone who has an Aromatisse, and like, well, now I have to bring the Aromatisse because Regidrago can possibly come and sweep me. Same thing can be said about Regieleki. Now you're forced to bring a ground type, just in case. Spectrier is like the biggest one of those three, because Spectrier forces a normal type to come a lot of times, and there aren't that many great normal types. So it's an amazing way to just force prep on the opponent. And that's what Galissopod does so well. It forces the Protect just to be weary of First Impression, since First Impression will hit so hard. It forces like Hazard removal, because now you're afraid of both rocks and spikes being up. So it does its job so well that I just think it's a great like late round pick. And finally, for the 11th pick, I was like, you know what? I got a couple points left. I really don't care. Let me just get a spinner. And let me just add to the regen squad already. So I got Eldegoss. Now, I'm not going to say Eldegoss is a great pick. It doesn't really force too much prep type of thing. What it does is it's just going to spin, and that's all it needs to do. It's just another bulky regen mon that spins. Tangrowth does a lot of the same things that Eldegoss does outside of just spinning. So I drafted Eldegoss because I have spikes and I have rocks, and you know what? I was like, I don't want to be forced to just run defog and remove everything I set up each and every time, so I'm going to grab a spinner so that whenever I do want to bring spikes and rocks, I can spin them my side away and keep the other side up. So that's what the Eldegoss is here for, is just to spin. And so yeah, so this is my team for NCP. I am excited for it. I just feel like I built like I drafted like a better team than I did for either my last two drafts or APA. So I just think like with a bunch of like, once again, just getting the help that I get from my friends and whatnot. I think I can do pretty well this season. I'm excited to use it. I'm excited to battle new people. There are a few new faces in NCP that I've never faced in battle before, so I'm excited to play them. And I'm just like overall, I'm just here to have fun, enjoy myself, and just play around. Have some fun. Use some mons that I've never really used before, like Galissopod or Gengar. I don't think I've really ever used Gengar either. So I'm just excited. Using a few fun mons, new strategies, that sort of thing. Just having fun overall. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all when week 1 next. Peace.